English Easy Podcast.
Hello, learners. Welcome back to English Sleep Podcast, your partner to learning English while you sleep.
And as you settle into the dark tonight, we want to offer you a very gentle, counterintuitive thought.
Right. Because during the day, we tend to think of time as something that is constantly running out, like a rushing river that we can never quite catch.
Yeah, that is so true. But what if you could build a tiny, delicate box and just trap a single perfect second of time inside it?
I love that image. You have carried so much information today. You have navigated such a demanding, fast-paced world.
You really have.
But right now in your dimly lit room past midnight, we're going to let all of that urgency just fade away.
Exactly. Tonight, we are taking a deliberate, unhurried look at an article from gmagazine.org.id, and it traces the remarkable evolution of the camera.
And our mission here isn't just to memorize a timeline. It is to really understand the physical magic of how humanity learned to freeze the light.
Right. We will gently unpack the mechanics and the chemistry behind this invention.
Starting from the ancient, solitary observations of the very first lenses and walking softly all the way to our silent digital world.
So I want you to take a slow, deep breath.
Just let your body sink heavily into your resting place, and let's begin.
Before we could ever hold a physical photograph in our hands, we first had to understand the behavior of light itself.
It all starts with a light.
Yeah. And to do that, we travel back to the foundational principles observed by the philosopher Aristotle.
I want you to imagine just sitting in a completely sealed, pitch-black room.
The air around you is perfectly still, and the only thing piercing the absolute darkness is a single tiny pinhole in the wall facing the outside world.
And through that microscopic opening, the bright world outside is projected onto the dark wall in front of you.
But interestingly, the image is entirely upside down. This is the Camera Obscura.
It sounds like a dream, honestly. Like the universe's own private cinema just painting a glowing picture meant only for you.
Yeah, it really is a beautiful thought.
But I have always wondered, why is the image upside down? I mean, what is actually happening in that quiet, dark room?
Well, that is just the beautiful physics of light.
Oh. How so?
Light travels in perfectly straight lines. So the light reflecting off the very top leaves of a tree outside it travels downward at an angle to squeeze through that tiny pinhole.
Ah, I see.
And once it passes through, it continues its downward journey, hitting the very bottom of your dark wall.
Right. And conversely, the light bouncing off the roots of the tree travels upward through the hole, hitting the top of your wall.
Exactly. The pinhole forces all those scattered rays of light to cross paths, flipping the entire world on its head. It's just a completely natural optical phenomenon.
That makes perfect sense. The hole acts as a bottleneck, forcing the light to pivot. But, watching a projection on a wall it's fleeting. Once the sun sets, the image just disappears.
Right. It fades to black.
So how do we go from simply watching these reverse shadows to actually capturing them?
Well, that required a profound kind of patience.
I can imagine.
In France, a man named Joseph Nicephore Niepce, he utilized this Camera Obscura to capture the world's very first photograph. But he didn't just let the light hit a bare wall.
What did he use instead?
He coated a pewter plate with a naturally occurring asphalt called bitumen of Judea.
Wait, asphalt, like what we use on roads?
Yeah, a specific kind, actually. And this material has a really unique chemical property. It hardens when it is exposed to light.
Oh, wow. So instead of ink, he used the sunlight itself as a physical chisel.
Exactly. The light streaming through the pinhole would strike the asphalt. The brightest parts of the projected image, like the sky, would harden the asphalt completely.
And the dark shadows, where no light fell, those would leave the asphalt soft.
Right. And afterward, he could simply wash the plate with a solvent. The soft, unexposed asphalt just melted away while the light-hardened areas remained.
That is brilliant. But I imagine that chemical reaction was incredibly slow.
It was. It is believed Niepce had to leave his camera sitting in absolute stillness for 8 hours just to capture a single grainy image of the view from his window.
Just waiting in the quiet as the sun slowly etched itself into permanence. That slow glacial magic. It naturally blends into the next step of our journey.
It does, yeah.
Because 8 hours is a beautifully poetic amount of time to capture a building. But you cannot ask a human being to sit perfectly still for an entire day to capture their portraits.
No, definitely not. The world needed a more practical system. And that brings us to the year 1837, when another pioneer, Jacques Daguerre, collaborated with Niepce to create the daguerreotype.
The daguerreotype. That really transformed this quiet experiment into a shared human experience, didn't it?
It really did. Daguerre replaced the slow-hardening asphalt with something much more sensitive. He used a sheet of copper plated with pure silver.
A silver plate? That sounds so delicate.
And in a hushed, darkened room, he would expose that silver plate to iodine vapor, which created a microscopically thin, light-sensitive layer of silver iodide.
Okay, I want to make sure I'm visualizing this correctly for our listeners.
Yeah.
When the light from the camera lens hits that silver iodide plate, does the image just magically appear right there in the camera, or is it invisible at first?
It is entirely invisible at first.
Wow.
Yeah. When the photons of light strike the silver iodide, they cause a tiny invisible chemical shift. We call this a latent image. It's like a secret memory held in the metal, waiting to be awakened.
Secret memory. I love that. So how did they awaken it?
To reveal it, the photographer had to expose the plate to the vapor of heated mercury. The mercury particles would cling only to the parts of the silver that had been touched by light, turning them a frosty, opaque white.
And then they would just wash it.
Finally, bathing it in a simple salt solution would wash away the remaining unexposed chemicals, fixing the image forever.
Think about how completely still you are resting right now.
Just letting your body be heavy.
Relaxed. Sitting for a daguerreotypes required a very similar, profound stillness.
Yeah, it did.
Because the chemicals were still relatively slow, subjects often had to be braced with hidden metal stands behind their necks just to keep their heads from moving for the minutes-long exposure.
They held their breath. They didn't smile because holding a smile completely still for 3 minutes is nearly impossible.
Right. They just let the quiet moments settle over them, allowing their reflection to be chemically bonded to cold metal. It feels almost like you are sitting for a daguerreotype right now, doesn't it? Just resting.
It is a beautiful thought. Daguerre moved humanity from solitary 8-hour shadows into a practical system of preserving our faces, a shared, quiet way of remembering one another.
But as that era of delicate, stationary plates slowly passed, we sought to hold these memories closer.
We did. We wanted to take the camera out of the formal studio and carry it in the palms of our hands.
And this desire led to a gentle mechanical evolution. The invention of the compact camera by Oscar Barnack at Leitz in Germany.
The compact camera shifted everything. Instead of heavy silver plates, Barnack's camera utilized 35mm film.
But wait, let's unpack that for a moment.
Okay.
Why specifically 35mm? And if the film is so small, just a thin ribbon, how did the pictures not look blurry and terrible when they were printed at a larger size?
Well, that was Barnack's brilliance. 35mm film was already being manufactured in massive quantities for the cinema industry. It was the standard size for moving pictures.
Oh, I see.
So Barnack simply took that existing cinema film and turned it sideways, creating a compact mechanism to advance it frame by frame for still photography.
And what about the quality?
That came down to the exquisite engineering of the glass lenses. The Leitz lenses were crafted with such absolute microscopic precision that they could focus the light perfectly onto that tiny piece of film.
So the resulting image was incredibly dense with detail.
Exactly. So dense that it could be enlarged significantly without losing its crispness.
Just imagine the tactile sensation of those early mechanical cameras.
Smooth, cold metal resting in your grip.
The soft, satisfying click of the shutter mechanism opening and closing in a fraction of a second.
Yeah, that mechanical lullaby continued to evolve. By 1928, the world was introduced to the twin-lens reflex camera, or TLR, created by Frank and Heideck under their Rolleiflex line.
Now, I have seen these beautifully engineered boxes. They don't look like modern cameras at all.
No, they don't.
They have two glass lenses stacked on top of each other on the front. Why two? What purpose did that serve for the photographer standing in the quiet of a room?
To understand that, we have to look inside the box. Before the TLR, taking a picture was often a process of guesswork. You couldn't easily see exactly what the lens was seeing until after the photo was taken.
Right, which must have been frustrating.
The twin lens reflex solved this. The bottom lens was the taking lens. It had the shutter and it projected light straight back onto the film.
Okay, so what did the top lens do?
The top lens was the viewing lens. Light would enter that top lens, hit a mirror angle at exactly 45 degrees, and bounce upward onto a frosted piece of ground glass at the very top of the camera.
Ah, I see. It acts like a delicate periscope.
You don't hold a TLR up to your eye, you hold it lower, resting near your chest, and you bow your head to look down into it.
Looking down into the top of a twin-lens reflex camera is almost like peering down into a calm, glass-still pond at midnight.
Yeah.
You're looking down to see the world in front of you softly and perfectly framed.
It gave the photographer a steady, reliable rhythm. However, because the viewing lens is an inch or two higher than the taking lens, there was always a slight difference in perspective, a parallax error.
Which eventually led to the single-lens reflex, right? The SLR cameras, which many still use today.
Right. In an SLR, a complex mechanism of mirrors sits directly behind the single lens. When you look through the viewfinder, you are looking through the exact same glass that will take the picture.
And when you press the button,
the mirror swiftly flips up and out of the way, allowing the light to hit the film. That mechanical movement is the distinct, soft clack you hear in older cameras.
And those soft mechanical clicks, they eventually gave way to an era where memories weren't just seen, but deeply felt through the physical texture of analog film.
Yeah, the article points out that the analog camera era truly blossomed and became a global companion around 1981, and it saw prominent use in massive live events like the 1984 Olympics in the United States.
But, I want us to look past the crowds and the noise of those sporting events. I want to understand the silent chemistry happening inside that little canister of film.
It is so peaceful when you really break it down.
Can you feel that thin, delicate strip of memory between your fingers right now? What is actually happening on that slightly glossy ribbon when the shutter snaps open?
It is a marvel of microscopic engineering. Analog film is coated in a thin layer of gelatin, similar to what you might find in food. But this gelatin is filled with millions of microscopic silver halide crystals.
So it's almost like a microscopic field of light-sensitive flowers.
Yes. And when the shutter opens for just a fraction of a second, photons of light flood into the camera. When a photon strikes a silver halide crystal, it knocks an electron loose,
creating a tiny speck of metallic silver.
Exactly. Once again, we have a latent image, invisible to the human eye, but physically altered on a subatomic level, the quiet mystery of what those tiny, dark frames hold until they are finally brought to the light.
So you were carrying around a roll of slightly altered crystals. And to actually see the memories, you have to step into the quiet mystery of the darkroom. I've always found the idea of the darkroom so soothing.
Me too.
The dim red glow, the rhythmic, soothing sound of winding the film, the gentle swish of liquids in shallow trays.
Yeah, but those liquids aren't just water. They are performing a very specific, deliberate unearthing.
They were completing the alchemy, right?
First, the film is bathed in a chemical developer. The developer seeks out only the crystals that were touched by light, and it amplifies that tiny speck of metallic silver, turning the entire crystal into black metallic silver.
This is why a film negative looks inverted. The places that receive the most light, like the sky, turn the darkest on the film.
Exactly. Then comes the stop bath, a mild acid that gently halts the development process so the image doesn't turn completely black.
And finally, the fixer.
Right. The fixer dissolves all the remaining unexposed silver halide crystals and washes them away. If you didn't do this, the moment you turned on the lights in the room, the rest of the film would react and your memory would vanish into pure blackness.
It is such a delicate grounding process. Even though these analog cameras were used for high-energy events like the 1984 Olympics, the act of taking the photo was always a solitary, peaceful moment, looking through the lens, holding your breath, and pressing the shutter.
And as time flowed on, the physical winding of that film eventually began to soften. It slowly melted into the complete smooth silence of the digital age we live in today.
The transition to digital cameras completely removed the roll of film.
It did. Instead, we were introduced to digital memory cards and internal storage. Images were suddenly saved as soft copies, pure data.
This is the part that feels like science fiction, even today.
Yeah, it really does.
We spent centuries relying on asphalt and silver plates and gelatin crystals. When we remove the physical chemistry entirely, how does a digital sensor actually catch the light? How does it translate a sunset into an invisible computer file?
Well, it relies on something called the photoelectric effect. Inside a digital camera, replacing the strip of film is an electronic sensor.
Okay.
This sensor is made up of millions of microscopic, light-sensitive squares called photosites. We commonly call them pixels.
For pixels, right.
You can think of each photosite as a tiny, empty bucket. But instead of catching raindrops, they catch photons of light.
And when the shutter opens, the light pours in.
The brighter the light hitting a specific bucket, the stronger the electrical charge it generates. The camera's computer then measures the exact amount of electricity in every single bucket and translates those measurements into binary code.
Strings of ones and zeros. It's a beautiful shift, isn't it?
It really is.
We went from the physical touch of film to something entirely invisible. The mechanical winding sound of the film is gone. In its place is just the soft, gentle glow of a digital screen illuminating the dark.
And the invisible, peaceful flow of data onto a memory card.
Just a tiny memory card holding thousands of silent moments, like stars quietly resting in a night sky.
A perfect silent culmination. Digital sensors capture the world with stunning, pristine clarity. Yet they do so without making a single sound.
It's just centuries of human ingenuity simply trying to hold on to the light for just a little bit longer.
Yeah.
We've traveled such a long, unhurried way tonight.
We have.
From the dark, quiet room of Aristotle's Camera Obscura, watching a single beam of light project the inverted world onto a wall.
Through the delicate silver plates and the tactile film.
All the way to the silent, softly glowing digital screens of today.
It is a comforting reminder for a learner's resting mind, isn't it? Learning doesn't always have to be loud or overwhelming.
No, it doesn't.
Sometimes understanding the world is as soft and quiet as light passing through a glass lens waiting to be caught. You can absorb this gentle history and then simply let it go as you rest.
As you close your eyes now, I want you to think about the images safely stored in your own mind. Unlike a digital file resting on a memory card or a fragile piece of analog film soaking in a darkroom, your memories require absolutely no light to be seen.
They are just there.
What quiet, beautiful picture will your mind project onto the back of your eyelids tonight?
May your rest be deep and peaceful.
Good night, learner. Sleep well.
Good night.